Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025, here at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. Beautiful thing, man. Wonderful thing. Anytime media days in general, whether it's the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, whenever you have media days happening, that means college football is painfully close. For those of y'all tuned in on the YouTube channel, this show coming a little bit later at you than our typical morning drop. That's because we got some interviews lined up for you here. And we had to work around their schedule. Obviously, when Paul Finebaum says, hey, I'll jump on the show, just give me till around like noon your time, you wait till he come on the show. So we got Paul Finebaum talking about the SEC as he sees it right now, talk a little about what's going on for him career-wise, and just talking to Paul Finebaum, always a good deal. Also talk to Greg McElroy, who provided a little bit of juice here at Media Days on Monday, saying he's heard, he doesn't think, but he's heard that Nick Saban could come back to coaching football. So we talked to him about that and got his take on the Alabama quarterback battle. Going to play you both those conversations here in a matter of moments, but I want to make sure that you know this. We're doing a ton of interviews on this show, obviously with those people I just mentioned, but we got conversations with Lenora Sellers, Jackson Arnold, Hugh Freeze, Shane Beamer, and we're only a few days into this thing. We got more content coming for you. Not all of those interviews are going to make full shows. One, we want to get it out to you in a timely fashion. And two, we just don't do a full interview show. We do other stuff when it comes to content on our full show. So the bottom line here is be subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel to get all those interviews in video format. I would also now make sure I'm dialed in to the podcast feed. Apple, Spotify, the Hard Count, and type that in with JD PicKell. You get it wherever you get it. And we will have, I think, some interview products for you in the podcast feed. So get dialed in there, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. But, man, appreciate y'all allowing us to be here, y'all tuning in, watching the show, interacting with the content, allows us to take this show places like this. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Here's our conversation with Paul Finebaum, followed by our conversation with Greg McElroy. Here with, I would say, arguably the most popular man at SEC Media Days. Is that a fair label? I mean, I know Arch Manning's going to show up here, but
Arch Manning hasn't shown up yet.
I think you guys are in the same tier. And that's not me just trying to
there's a big difference, though, JD. What's Arch? 20 years old? I don't know what he is.
Over 21. I know that much. He's made that clear.
I'm nearly 50 years older than him, and he's already making more money than I am.
Well, I mean, I fall in that same category as well with Arch Manning. I think as many do. I want to start with this, though. Do you still it seems like you still love doing this and being at this event and being a part of this? Is that fair to say? Is that true?
Yeah, and as you get older, people say, are you still having fun? I mean, you can't do a job like this unless you're enjoying it. I mean, it would just be miserable because I know everybody watching thinks this is like the greatest thing in the world. You get to go to football games, you get good seats, but I mean, there's a lot to it. And I think a lot of people in my profession that they reach a certain point and they burn out. I haven't burned out for a very specific reason. I started as a sports writer. When that business went under, I got into radio. When I saw radio under the gun, I moved into television, and now I'm moving into the digital phrase. It will come out tomorrow that I just signed a new deal with Shannon Terry and On3. So I'm glad we can announce it.
That's awesome. There we go. For a second, I was like, I can't tell if you're being serious, but this might be. I was ready for that all to be a thing. It's
always been my dream to work with Shannon. I mean, he's like the godfather of digital. I mean, he's the biggest name in the industry, and I'm a big fan of his. But I've never gotten that call. I mean, you have, and I'm still waiting by the phone. Maybe that's my problem. I'm waiting by a phone.
Well, I always say he's kind of like the Nick Saban of the space, so it's good to be on that team. But I would say, I mean, I think Saban, towards the end, kind of started to use the portal a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know what the NIL valuation is for someone like yourself, but I have to imagine.
Well, I got a meeting later with Jimmy Sexton, so we'll get back to you on that.
It sounds like a plan. Speaking of media days, though, what do you think is maybe the most untrue thing being said as of right now? Hey, everyone's on this take. I don't know if I align with that.
Yeah, I think so far it's about Brian Kelly. I've been asked repeated times about Brian Kelly being on the hot seat, and I understand the question. But I actually said on one of the ESPN shows yesterday, I said, no, I think it's starting to get ridiculous putting people on the hot seat. As I said that, I remembered in the 80s as a young columnist, I actually started the hot seat stuff. I was like, you'd have to, do 3 or 4 columns a week, and you walk in early July, go, okay, who's on the hot seat? And it's just it started. Now it's just got a life of its own. I was also asked yesterday by someone if I thought Lane Kiffin was on the hot seat, which I thought was like the most insane question I've ever been asked.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys have a good relationship, it seems like. Or there's some banter there. Walk me through that, because I think some people watching at home are like, is this real? Are they on good terms? Where are we at?
So there's a long story behind it, which I'll leave out.
Sure.
I mean, just Google me and Lane Kiffin, and you'll get it. He blames me for getting him fired at Southern Cal. Now, yesterday, he blamed me for getting him fired at the Oakland Raiders so I could get him to Tennessee. We have done the last 2 interviews we've done, one in Destin and one here on Monday, have been the most well-received. I mean, all of a sudden, it's being described as like the buddy movies of the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's the most bizarre thing. He comes on. He wasn't even invited yesterday.
Okay.
We don't invite coaches. We're told by the SEC who will be there in your time slot. Like today, Sarkisian's on. Yesterday, Kiffin he makes the SEC network appearance, and then we got Clark Lee. So I get a text from Kiffin. How come I'm not on? I said, well, Coach, we were told you weren't available. He said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. So he literally showed up, and it was like it always is, just weird, cringeworthy, but according to the public, very funny.
Some would say that's what best friends do, though. They show up at your house unannounced, they eat your food, they sit at your table, and maybe it feels weird to everybody else there, but that's just guys being guys.
I've said this before, and I'm going to be very disappointed that Hollywood doesn't offer us our own variety show, sitcom, podcast. Shannon.
There it is.
There it is.
There's the pitch right there.
Who needs Brett McMurphy? Who needs JD? Who needs Nakos? When you got Lane and Paul.
I don't think I want to be on that island having to get voted off and pick between these guys. You mentioned Arch Manning. He's here today. I feel like there's so much discussion around him with his last name. Like, he's got to be great from the jump, which I think it's fair. Had some time to, get developed and all those things. Where are you on Arch Manning, though, when it comes to, like, expectations in 2025?
They're extremely high. I mean, a guy that's really never started a meaningful game is already the Heisman favorite. I would be willing to bet if you go back and check the Heisman favorite the last couple of years, the guy in August was nowhere to be found at the end of the year. Joe Burrow wasn't. Last year. Last year. Back, yeah. It just, that's how it works. I don't think he has to be Superman, which I've heard is not that great a movie. I haven't seen it yet. But he just needs to be good. And I think he will be.
Last question for you. Appreciate all your time. Who's the sneakiest team in the SEC this year?
Somebody asked me that today, and they said, well, they're not going to be any good. I said, well, that's why they're
sneaky. Yeah.
You can't say, well, I think Georgia is. I think it's a risky answer, but I'm going Oklahoma.
But I love that you said that, because it doesn't feel like that's not a crazy thing to say. If Oklahoma with the quarterback, with the defense, right. Like, I'll lie to you one more question. Is this the most open the SEC's been in your recent memory?
I think it is. And I think the fact that a lot of really smart people are saying Alabama is better than Georgia, including me, I don't think you could substantiate that, but I'm not sold on Georgia. I just think there's a few little things wrong, and they're still a really good program. But it reminds me a little bit of Saban the last 2 or 3 years. You never knew what you were getting.
There you have it. Most popular man at SEC Media Days is the man.
I'll see all you guys on the Paul Finebaum show on 3 starting in August.
Boom. Mic drop. ESPN's and former Alabama quarterback Greg McElroy, our neighbor here off to the side here on Radio Row. How you doing?
Good, man. I just want to say I appreciate what you guys do. I listen to you guys. Y'all are in the rotation. really started really listening last fall. I really like some of your preview stuff, the way you see it, man. So you guys do a really good job.
I appreciate
I'm glad to
that.
be joining you guys.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that. It means a lot coming from a football guy like yourself, man.
Yeah.
But
Well, between you, Pate, we have our show, and then I listen to Cover 3. I like to get those guys who are off the wall sometimes. So that's kind of like my regular rotation. So you got a listener here, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. That's a solid depth chart too. Like you got depth to go for the entire.
I try to get four workouts in a week, so I listen to 4 podcasts. You know,
Are you? That's cool. Okay, so that makes me ask the question:
Yeah.
Are you hitting is the hard count like your arm day, or are you like,
you know,
hey, I'm lifting legs?
I'm just total body all the time at this point. You know what I mean? Like just I do legs a lot. People are like, why? I'm like, dude, I still play golf. Like I'm active, and I don't want to be that top heavy guy. You know what I mean?
That's a good call.
You know what I mean?
That's a
Like
good
the
call.
top heavy guy is brutal. Like you don't want like tiny, skinny calves and ankles and like no thighs and be like yoked up top. So I've just have always been very scared of maybe getting to that point. So I try to balance it out pretty good.
It's just a bad look, and also like the assumptions people can make about you, and that's
100%.
how you roll. And it's like I don't know, I don't want to deal with all that
for sure.
Man, let's start here. I just want to go total ISO, give you the rock, let you just cook on this one. You mentioned the possibility of Saban coming back, and people ran with it and said he's coming back. He's this, he's that, and so
this is insane.
I was stoked because I was like, oh, we got Greg on the show tomorrow. Like I'm gonna just let him say what he wants to say. So just I want you to say whatever you want to say about that and have it just out for the people to hear.
You know, first of all, I don't think he's coming back, so we'll start with that.
Right.
Like I don't see that as a likely possibility at all. I think he's fully content doing what he's doing. He gets a taste of football 3 hours a week on game day. I think he's still in the game, but he's very involved with Nick's Kids Foundation, which he cares greatly about. He loves playing golf. So I don't think he's coming back. We'll start with that. There are people, though, that think that if the right situation came about, you know, I mean, hypothetically speaking, Andy Reid retires and they want Nick Saban for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, how do you not take that call? You know,
it's a good deal. Pat Mahomes, your quarterback. Like,
I'd listen to that.
It's a furnished apartment.
So, that's basically what they said. They're like, you know what? Hey, don't rule it out, I guess is kind of how they phrased it. And people I trust and people I respect. And I'm like, I don't really buy it. I mean, I got to be honest with you, I don't really buy it. But you know who I'll ask? I'll ask Finebaum. Like, I'll see if he's heard anything because he's super connected and knows a lot of those same people and see if he's hearing some of the same stuff. So we're on the show yesterday with Paul. I'm like, Paul, like I wouldn't even ask this question if it didn't come from a place that has been pretty reliable for me in the past. But they're kind of telling me don't rule out the possibility of coach getting back on the sideline. Like, have you heard anything like that? And all it is like people in the know, tell Greg McElroy Saban's open to returning to the sideline. Like, no, I didn't say that. I'm not trying to get up. I saw people like writing articles like most likely landing spots for coach. It's like, what are we doing?
Best fit for Nick Saban.
It was literally like a throwaway line, and none of us thought it was going to take off the way it was. It was simply just getting Paul's reaction to it because he's so well informed, and he immediately shut it down. And I kind of felt the same way. So I'm glad that we were in lockstep because what I had heard weeks before, it was a little different than that. So it didn't intend for it to take off the way it did, but that's just the way we are in the media now, and people freak out and react before they even hear the context of what the conversation was actually like.
Plus social media, and also it being media days, where everyone's already like kind of on tilt a little bit.
It's I guess it's kind of slow, and there hasn't been like a ton of news being made. I don't feel like a lot less news than I anticipated coming into it.
Yeah, still early though. We could
I thought the commissioner would maybe go a little harder on where he sees the 8-game versus 9-game or the 5+11 versus the automatic qualify. I thought he'd go a little harder on some of those things. I think he did the right thing by maybe not totally revealing his hand because he's operating from such a position of strength. But we didn't get as much out of that press conference as far as like, this is where the sport is going, as I feel like I thought we were going to get more of that. So I thought we were going to get a little more clarity, a little bit more transparency with where this thing could head here in the next 6 to 12 months. So, but it's always fun, and media days is great, and it's always great to get everybody together. And you always, have a couple of chaotic moments, and just so happened to have my name attached to one of them yesterday.
Charge of the game, right?
Totally unintentional. It's like unbelievable.
Talking to a mic long enough, something gets said.
Yeah, right.
Before we let you go, man, we'll get your take here. Where is the Alabama quarterback battle? I put battle in air quotes because it feels very Ty Simpson-ish.
Yeah.
How locked up is that? Where do you see that whole thing sitting right
I
now?
don't think it's locked up at all. I think that Ty Simpson has the lead. Really comfortable saying that. I think the coaching staff has acknowledged that. But I also think there were times 2 years ago when he was in the competition with Jalen Milroe where there were people that thought he was the most talented guy on the roster from just operating the offense. It just never materialized in spring and summer and in fall camp. He just couldn't seize control. So longer it went, the more the team started to gravitate towards the playmaking ability of Jalen Milroe, which is totally understandable. But now with the kind of a second chance at it, I think he's got a different perspective and he's now waited his turn. I think he understands what needs to be done to secure the job. Now it's just about doing it. And no one questions the makeup. No one questions the skill set. No one questions the talent level. I think purely it's about actually doing what it is you're trying to do. And that's lead the team and secure the job. So I think it's pretty straightforward. He goes and plays well in the fall. He'll be the guy. He goes and plays okay in the fall. He'll probably still be the guy. He goes and doesn't do well in the fall. Now it's wide open. So that's kind of what I anticipate, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to mix the other guys in real world situations to kind of see where they might be with the lights being bright and the teams coming after him.
There you have it. A man who does not believe Nick Saban is unretiring. One of the most well-proportioned men in college football. Greg McElroy, appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, JD. Appreciate it, buddy.
So we got a chance to be around LSU yesterday during SEC Media Days. And during this part of the whole, talking season, everyone's saying the right things. Everyone's talking about how good they want to be and talking about their excitement and all those things. But there was a common trend for me when listening to guys from LSU talk about this upcoming season. And it's very, very evident this team expects to compete for and win a national championship. Not aspires to, not wants to, they expect to. And I think that from the outside looking in, this makes sense to a degree because you look at that logo, you say, yes, LSU. I mean, you talk about Les Miles winning one and Ed Orgeron winning one and Nick Saban won one and Nick Saban's Nick Saban, so you kind of subtract him from that conversation. But I think it goes a little bit deeper as to why they expect to win a national championship, in my humble opinion. And the first part of this is, I think when you look at the work that's truly been done by this outfit since Brian Kelly's gotten there, and really in the better course of like the last year or so, there's been national title level inputs, for my estimation. Because what were we saying for a while, like this time last year, what was the buzz? Whether it was fair or not, true or not, what was the buzz? LSU, they're playing the NIL game, but are they really like competing at the highest level in NIL? Like, yeah, LSU, they'll go grab a guy here, a guy there. They'll participate, like we say on this show. But are they going to go legitimately step up in there and go take some top-tier players? Well, this past cycle they did. Got a top 2 portal class, all right, in the on-3 industry team portal rankings, all right? So they got some, like, high-quality players. And Matt Moscona, who's a phenomenal job in the Baton Rouge market, made this point. We were talking to him prior to Brian Kelly's media availability. And he said, you look at, a couple of these teams over the course of the last, year that have had success at the highest level. What have they done each offseason? Gone to the portal, used NIL to go get a lot of good players. LSU's done that. And so you look up and down this roster, I say it a lot, I don't see a lot of holes. So you talk about the fans' expectation, that's one thing. There's not just expectation, there's internal confidence in the way they've done things here to where when you have the right inputs, you expect the right outputs. And LSU, for my money, has the right inputs. I also think it's worth noting the Bryce Underwood effect of this whole thing, right? Because remember, Bryce Underwood committed to LSU for a long time. He was who you got excited about when you talked about LSU football in the year 2026 and what he was going to bring in that recruiting class. Then last minute, flips away. What I have been told is when that happened, a lot of people with deep pockets around LSU were like, hey, this can't happen. What do you need so that this doesn't happen again? That's one part of it. The other part of it is whatever you're paying Bryce Underwood and anyone else that flipped away, that's now some greenbacks you can go take and allocate towards potentially a Barian Brown, a Patrick Payton, a Nick Anderson, a so on and so. Like, you hear what I'm saying? There's a lot there for LSU from that unfortunate situation where you have the top player in America flip away from you to his in-state school. Seems to be somewhat NIL fueled, if not very much so NIL fueled. It's not ideal to ever have happen, but if that's the fallout from it, if LSU is better for it, if they go win a national championship this year, I think you look back at that moment and say, that sucked, but we are better. We are here where we are now because of that situation. And I think that's not to be overlooked. So it's the roster. It's also, to me, the fact that you brought Garrett Nussmeier back. Like, I think there's a lot internally for Garrett Nussmeier as to why he wanted to come back to LSU. And he said it on this show yesterday. He said, I could not imagine anybody else being the quarterback to lead LSU to a national championship. It's personal to him, dude. It is. There's a reason why he never left LSU before, when he wasn't the starting quarterback and probably could have transferred a lot of places. It matters to him. And the fact that you brought him back, yes, on the personal side, but also I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is a free 99 acquisition either, just my own estimation. That plus the staff continuity, there's so much there to where LSU, not just the expectations of the logo or the fan base, from what you've done, the work behind closed doors with who you brought back, who you went out and got, and the continuity in the staff, like it's all right there, man, for LSU to go win a national championship. And I keep saying this, but like, we're going to make our national title picks post media days. And man, I'm not just on the ledge. I'm like 1 foot off the ledge when it comes to picking LSU to win the whole thing. And the way these guys talked about it today, and talking is cheap and talking is great for social media and it's great for our business, but like didn't feel like just words to me. It felt like little minute things to pick up on with how they carry themselves, how they talk about their upcoming season and their goals and the work they're doing behind closed doors, the approach philosophically, to where I think I believe what they're saying. It's not just lip service from what I can, project at this point. So not a prediction right now, but I'm just saying, man, like if there's a reason to not pick LSU to win the national championship, I need someone to come and get me off that ledge because I'm out there. Big reason why, well, we just said quarterback. Weird year in college football for quarterbacks, right? A lot of newness for some of these usual suspects to win a national championship. Ohio State, Texas, 2 teams favored right now in Vegas to win the whole thing. Guess what? Breaking in a new quarterback. I love Arch Manning. I think he's going to be awesome. I got to see it. Julian saying, I think he's going to be phenomenal. I want to make sure that he actually is, as advertised, his first year as a starter in major college football. Oh, by the way, you're at one of the most visible places in all of the college football world as a quarterback at Ohio State. Like, how do you handle that? There's a lot there. Guess what? I'm not guessing about LSU's quarterback. Neither are you. Why? Because he threw for 4,000 yards last year as a first-year starter. He's coming back with the same OC. I happen to think he has better weapons than he even did a season ago when it comes to that wide receiver room. He told us today there's nobody that runs under a 4.4 on that roster when it comes to the receiver room. That's a good thing, right? I mean, speed's always a good thing at the receiver position, and Garrett Nussmeier and LSU have it in spades. So when everyone else is uncertain, LSU's sitting there saying, sucks to be y'all, man. We feel good about our guy. Right? Who else is saying that right now in modern college football? Penn State? And even then, like, I think it's fair to have some question marks around Penn State's weapons. Like, if it comes down to quarterback play, LSU has the most sure thing in America, most proven guy in America, for my money, when it comes to playing at the highest level. And guess what? He's only getting better because he's gone through the gauntlet already in the SEC. And Brian Kelly said it during his media availability. He's like, what's going to make Garrett Nussmeier better is the fact that he's actually played games. You can do whatever you want on the virtual reality and shorts and a T-shirt and 7-on-7, whatever. That's all great. But until you actually walk into the belly of the beast in a playoff game in the SEC during the month of November, I say playoff game in terms of playoff implications, there's no way to simulate that, dude. There's no way to account for what that is on a guy's mental state and how you handle that in the fourth. Like, it's just there's no way to account for it. And so the fact that he's done it already, that's how you account for it. When he walks back into that situation, that's how you are better because of it. So it's pretty obvious, man. Like I love the way this LSU team is built. I love who they have at quarterback. I love the approach they're taking. I love the way they're talking about their philosophy here, saying, hey, previous years, maybe we got a little bit ahead of our skis. Maybe we looked a little bit too far at the result. We weren't focused enough on the process. It seems like a process-oriented team, and they're placing a massive emphasis on week 1 in case that's your rebuttal to this whole thing. Well, yeah, but can you win the opener? I don't know, but they are taking a different approach and doing everything you would hope a team is doing that hasn't won the opener in the last few tries. The last thing I'll say, the way this plot builds up for LSU, what I just said, there's a certain point where whatever it is in life, whether it's football, whether it's your own career, whether it's your relationships, there has got to be a point where you decide your direction and you draw a line in the sand and you say, this is no longer how things are going to be. I'm going to make sure that this is now the new normal for me. This is my new reality. And for LSU, I think they're kind of pissed off enough for greatness, both from a resources level and a roster level, to where like they're not here to go win 9 games next year. They're not here to go play for a bowl game that's not outside the college football playoff. I don't think that's their vibe right now, man. And so vibes are one thing in July, but I truly think there's more than just vibes for LSU. And the expectations for a national title are one thing at a fan base level, and because the logo and all that, like I'm telling you, there should be expectations for a national championship because of the work they've done, the roster they have, the continuity they have on that staff. It's all there. It's all there for LSU in a year where it's seemingly unknown for a lot of people, a lot of teams across the sport, man. So I'm excited to see what they are here, especially in week 1. If you win that first game in week 1, okay, hey, a hype train gets rolling a little bit more heavily. It's got some real steam to it, and we're off to the races. Now, here's one thing that I think people are missing right now in the world of college football. Texas and Steve Sarkisian here at SC Media Days today in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm so fired up to hear from them and hear the ultimate just buzz around their program. But I think one thing that's being missed when it comes to Texas in 2025, so much said around what Texas lost last year. And it's a fair statement. Lost starting quarterback. You only bring back 29% production on offense. You bring back 1 offensive lineman of your 5. It's not usually a good thing, right? So that's one part of this. But what people are missing is I think Steve Sarkisian really likes this roster, especially on offense. How do I know that? Look at what they did in the portal. Went out and got 1 wide receiver from Stanford. He's a good player in Mosley. Went out and got a quarterback who's going to be a backup. Okay, good deal. Went out and got a tight end. Awesome. If Steve Sarkisian didn't feel good about his offensive line, what would he have done? Gone to the portal. If he thought his wide receiver room needed some more help, what would he have done? Gotten more wide receivers. JD, there's less proven production. Totally true. But don't you think when it comes to offensive football, you trust Steve Sarkisian's gut? It's not like Texas is broke. If Texas wanted to go shopping and go grab some mass production out of the portal, they could have gone and done that. I promise you they could have gone and done that. Don't believe me? Go look at what they've done on the recruiting trail at the high school level. Last year, #1 class in America. Like they're good for it, but Texas is not hurting for NIL resources. If you didn't have the groceries you wanted at home, what do? Either go get more groceries or you eat out. Texas has done neither. Tells me they like their groceries. So when you talk about what this means for Sark and Texas in the future, I think last year going into the season, what were we saying with Texas, man? Hey, Sark, we know we can call plays. It beat Bama the year before. That was big, but like, do they really have a roster that's built for it? We said if Sark won at a high level again in 2024, we would say he was a good builder. Okay, check the box, made the college football playoff again. You're a play away from tying the game against Ohio State. That's that. I think this upcoming season, we're past the builder test. We're on to the evolution test for Steve Sarkisian. How sustainable is what you've built in the SEC? And the way you test if it's sustainable is you go and see what your recruiting classes have been, right? Like you're going on, what is it, year 5 here for Sark? Like he's been around the block a time or two now, all right? Like we're going to actually see the fruits of his labor when it comes to what he's built at Texas. What's the core roster nucleus of this whole thing? We're going to find out this year. So if they do it again, that's where this thing starts to really get rolling. And Steve Sarkisian is telling you by nature of how he has not gone to the portal when it comes to the offensive side of the football. I like my guys. I like my offense. Again, if Sark likes his offense, then I go ahead and lean that way as well. The only position that Texas went out and got in semi-bulk from the transfer portal was defensive line. Welcome to modern college football. Every single year, the good teams will make an effort to go and get depth on the defensive line. Like, that's pretty straightforward. But his lack of going to the offensive side for the portal tells me, like, I like how we recruited. We feel good about how we recruited. We're going to go with this, man. And so, again, this is the test evolution-wise for Sark and the SEC. It's also now a little bit of a footnote as to how we assess Arch Manning, because we keep saying it's fair to have higher expectations for Arch Manning than the average first-year quarterback. Why? Yeah, last name's Manning. That's cool. It's one part of it. But he's actually waited his turn, sat the bench for a couple years, done the right things behind closed doors, and now it's his time to shine. When was the last time a 5-star quarterback sat the bench for 2 years and waited? Becoming more and more rare. Borderline extinct in modern college football, dude. And people are saying, what are they saying now? Like, save the whales? is one thing. Like, save the backup quarterbacks that are 5 stars that are not sitting on the bench anymore. Save those guys. That's borderline extinct, if you ask me. But Sark not going to the portal that heavily tells me he feels like the situation is good enough for his first-year quarterback in Arch Manning to be successful. And so my point here is, when we evaluate Arch Manning in 2025, there's not going to be a bunch of external excuses. There's not going to be he's a true freshman. He's not. He's pitting around the block now. He knows where his classes are. He's third-year player now at this point. Well, he doesn't have a good enough roster around. Well, that's not true either. Sark is telling you his roster is good enough. If it wasn't, he would have gone to the portal. So I think this is going to be a really interesting year for us to assess Arch Manning, because we don't have those external factors to try to factor into how we assess him, if that makes sense. So what people are missing is that Sark likes his offense. And if Sark likes his offense, for the third time in this segment, I'll tell you, I like the offense. I like Texas. And I really love that defense, which is going to give them some time to gel even further. So just want to make sure we're all aligned on that, because it's kind of that time of the year where things kind of fly under the radar a little bit. And sometimes things go unnoticed that maybe play a major factor in what 2025 is going to be. I want to make sure we're aligned here. Let's go to one side of Red River to the other. What are the must-haves for Oklahoma here in 2025? I want to make sure we say this before we get into the offensive side and the defensive side and all that. I think the expectation for Oklahoma is not dwindling. Yeah, last year was a bummer. Sure, it's why you brought in Mateer, why you brought in Arbuckle. But the expectation of Oklahoma, I don't think, has dropped below not competing for a college football playoff spot. Like, I think with what they've done, the work they've done, they expect to be a factor in November, and I'm here for it. I'm here for that kind of edge. So for that to happen now, I say that to give the preface to the must-haves. If that's going to be a reality, I need on offense the Mateer magic. It sounds lazy. It sounds like the most easy, like low-hanging fruit to speak to Oklahoma. But I think it's valid, because the roster talent at Oklahoma, just Oklahoma in general, like night and day more stable than they were a year ago, right, dude? Like, we're talking about brand new offensive line a year ago. We're talking about a brand new coordinator, never worked with a quarterback before, hadn't really played any college football besides the bowl game. There was so much there where you're like, could work. I hope it works. But, y'all, there's a reason why I picked this team to go 6-6 a year ago and why I'm so high on them. It's night and day different when it comes to how stable they are and what you can actually look at from playing games in the college football world on Saturdays and how you feel about it. You're not forecasting. You're forecasting to the SEC to a degree, but you're not forecasting if John Mateer can play D1 FBS football or not. You were a year ago with Jackson Arnold. You were a year ago with your offensive line and your offensive coordinator. You're not right now. You know Arbuckle and Mateer work well together. All right. So going back to my point here, I think the floor at Oklahoma is actually pretty high, pretty stable. But what's going to make the difference for you between being a team that wins 8 games, and it's a good year, it's a 2-1 improvement, good year relative to what you were before, and being a team that makes the college football playoffs, is when you get in those games against the Texas of the world, South Carolina, Michigan week 2, your guy who you brought in to be the difference is the difference. And it may not be totally all ironed out. It may not make the most sense. It might not even look pretty in the box score. But in those spots where it's fourth in the game or it's the fourth quarter or whatever it is, you need John Mateer to go create the magic that you brought him in to create. And it sounds kind of, Hollywoodish, but I think that's just the reality you live in. That's why you brought John Mateer to Oklahoma. That's my must-have for Oklahoma if you're going to reach your expectations, which, again, are competing for a college football playoff spot. And I'm not here to tell you that shouldn't be the case. On defense, my must-have, I need that front seven. I need it to be top tier. And that's not a massively, surprising thing to say. That's kind of been Brent Venables' calling card his entire career as a defensive coordinator. Obviously the head coach now, but he's calling the defense. The qualifier there is I need them to be top tier, similar to the Mateer magic point. I need Oklahoma's front seven to be at their best in those games where you're playing the teams that major in the line of scrimmage. Like the game against Michigan, the game against Texas, game against Tennessee. All 3 of those teams, what do we know about them and their personality? They are going to make it a priority to win the line of scrimmage. Not just priority, like they just have a history of winning on the line of scrimmage. And so for Oklahoma, if you play well in some different spots, that's great. But if you don't play well in the spots that are going to make a difference between you being an 8-4 team and a 10-win team, then what are we talking about here? I love John Mateer, but he's not going to be the difference for you if he doesn't get to actually touch the football field because you're getting drugged through the mud and not able to get your offense back on the field because you averaging giving up 4 yards a carry. That's not what I anticipate, but I'm just saying with bringing back the majority of your defensive line, that has to show itself in the biggest spots against those teams. Like in the big dogs tier of college football, you got to have the big boys on the defensive side. And they do, but I want to see them play like it in those spots. So culturally now, and this is kind of what we do on these segments if you're new to the show, touch on the offensive side, the defensive side, and then we just have some sort of discussion around the culture, whether it's an observation, a prediction, or whatever. My observation on Oklahoma culturally, the thing that I love that I think everyone involved in that building right now gets what Oklahoma is, and they get what comes with that logo. And they, I think, have a different strut to themselves because of it. Like from Jim Nagy to the offensive staff to Mateer, there's an understanding of this is a place with some history, a place with some tradition, a place with expectations, a place with resources. Like this is Oklahoma. 7-5 not going to cut it. 6-7 not going to cut it. Like we have a different pep in our step. And does that actually count for anything? Like not really. But I think without it, you're out to sea. You know what I mean? Like I think for Oklahoma, it gives you extra purpose, extra confidence when you have an understanding as to what the standard is that you're playing behind, playing under. I've talked to people that just speak to what it's like walking into that building and what that logo means and kind of the weight that comes with that. And I don't know that was there a year ago. That's not knocking the previous season or that team, but like I don't think it was all the way clocking to them, shout out Justin Bieber, as to how important it was to uphold that tradition, that standard, the privilege it is. And I think this team does get that. So again, does it count for any points on Saturday? No, but I think it's a necessary prerequisite to having the success that you expect to have here in 2025. So for Oklahoma, Mateer Magic needed on offense, defense, especially up front against the big boys, got to have it. No way around it. You can't be subpar against Michigan and win the football game. Ask Ohio State how they were on the defensive line against Michigan, and ask Alabama how they were against Michigan on the defensive line. And yeah, you got to bring it. Pack a lunch for that one. And then culturally, I just love that there's an extra swag and confidence. I think that comes with being at Oklahoma, and they understand that. So we will have some more predictions for you around Oklahoma in the near future, but that's how we feel about them heading into 2025 as it pertains to some must-haves. Now, we're here at Media Days, and I say this, man, college football season, I think, unofficially kicks when we get to this part of the year. Not just the SEC, but like whenever you have Media Days happening and talking season, it's like, oh, this is the first tangible thing we're doing when it comes to what next season is going to be. And so here at Media Days, I started to think about, like, hey, what are a couple big games we have ahead of us when it comes to the SEC season? And Georgia's here today, and their opener is against Tennessee. And you have two new quarterbacks for both sides, both Gunnar Stockton and Joey Aguilar. And I want to ask the question, in that SEC opener, when Georgia rolls into Neyland Stadium, who has more pressure on them, Stockton or Aguilar? We'll unpack it right now. If you're a Georgia fan or you're a Tennessee fan, make sure you're subscribed. When this game rolls around, I promise you, we will have a prediction for you. It'll be a blast to talk about this game when it's here. But make sure you're locked in. Don't want to miss it, so make sure you're subscribed. I want to start with this, though. Outside of the quarterback discussion, from a team perspective, I think a win would mean more to Tennessee when it comes to the pressure. If Tennessee wins this football game, first it gives you the mulligan between, you got to go 10-2, right, to make the playoff. It gives you the mulligan if you could have a stretch where you go 1-2 between the game at Bama, Oklahoma, at Florida. That's a good way to live your life heading into the next stretch of your college football schedule, right? But maybe as importantly as that, remember just the overall change in the vibe there was for Tennessee that year they beat Alabama in 2022. It kind of legitimized everything they had done to that point, and I think it gave them a little extra confidence, too, going forward. You saw that team view themselves differently. And forget how they were viewed from the outside looking in. They viewed themselves differently and played better, I think, because they beat Alabama and had that win over Nick Saban under their belt. Same deal in this game. You beat Kirby Smart, a team that, you went to their place a year ago and got dragged. You do it with a different quarterback. after all the guys you lost from. Like, if you can beat Georgia for your first game in the SEC of 2025, like, tell me it doesn't get you feeling a little bit different about yourself. I think it would. I think that would pay massive dividends. For Georgia, I'm not telling you this is somehow a small deal if you lose this game. Make no mistake about it. This is massive for Georgia as well. But I do think we'd be a little bit foolish to not look at what history has said about Kirby Smart. He hasn't lost 2 regular season games since 2020. So if they lose this game, it's not ideal, and you obviously have less margin for error. But if it's about going 10-2 and making the playoff as the bare minimum, they expect more than that, but if that's the bare minimum, I think it could be kind of the wake-up call for that team, kind of like the Ole Miss game was a year ago. Lose the game to Ole Miss. Is Georgia falling off the face of the earth? What's up with Georgia on the outside looking in? And then Georgia bosses up and they go on a run and win the SEC, make the college football playoff. But again, I think the pressure for the game itself is more on Tennessee. Now, with that being said, I think the pressure from a quarterback perspective, for Joey Aguilar, I want to be careful how I say this, but he transfers in post-spring practice in the wake of the Nico Iamaleava fiasco. And he was kind of like the knight in shining armor, right? Like, it's all sort of house money for Joey Aguilar right now. The win for Tennessee was saying, no, we're not going to bend the knee to your demands when it comes to the Nico Iamaleava camp. The win was drawing a line in the sand and saying nobody's bigger than the Power T. Now, it's easy to say that in the month of, July, and it's different if you miss the college football playoff and don't have the year you want to have. But I think there's a little more of a house money vibe to where Joey Aguilar is right now. Not to say it's not with pressure, but I just think it's more house money. For Gunnar Stockton, I just think the conversation around him in this game gives me the feeling there's more pressure on him in this SEC opener. Because think about this. If he doesn't play well, what's the narrative going to be? Is he good enough to get Georgia to a national championship? Is he really the guy? And I'm not telling you that conversation is based in any merit. I'm just saying that's the extra noise you're going to have around your football team if you don't play well and you're Gunnar Stockton in this spot, right? Because you're going against one of the top secondaries in college football based on who they brought back. You went out and consciously, if you're Georgia, retooled your entire receiver room to go be able to throw the ball downfield. And if he's not successful in this spot and you don't see national title chops, just the evaluation of him, I think nationally, is going to kind of start to spiral a little bit. And then also, if we're going to be more level about this, if you're Georgia, in the biggest spot of your season to this point, if you don't feel great about Gunnar Stockton, like when it comes to his performance in this game, you're betting on upward trajectory and upward trend, which I think everyone should bet on when it comes to early parts of the season and not overreact. But I do just think there's more massive pressure on Gunnar Stockton to perform because of the lens you're viewing it through. Not saying that Tennessee has low expectations, but for Gunnar Stockton and Georgia, it's like, okay, last year wasn't it. This is a year we got to go circle the wagons, in a year with a lot of uncertainty across college football, which we've said already on the show. Texas, new quarterback. Ohio State, new quarterback. We're going down the line here. Ole Miss, new quarterback, the team you lost to last year. There's a lot of newness. And so if your guy is the best new guy, which I think you're hoping it is if you're Georgia, think about how that positions you with the rest of your roster. So physically speaking, you're probably asking more of a Joey Aguilar with how much you anticipate them throwing the football. But I do think just pressure and conversation and just the way we're assessing this game for Gunnar Stockton, I put more pressure on him in the SEC opener for them when they roll into Neyland. But regardless, pressure on both. We all win watching college football, watching that game. But I think there is more pressure on Gunnar Stockton to perform and how he's assessed. All right, hey, great show today. We appreciate y'all rocking with this man here in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. If you're a sicko now, this is our time. This is our time. I'm looking you. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm looking you in the windows of your soul. It's college football season. Lock in, subscribe, follow on the socials. Stuff happening over there, Instagram, Twitter, at Jody PicKell. That's not happening on here. I want y'all a part of that now. Want y'all in lockstep with us. Caden Smith crushing it on the ones and twos. Remote setup, getting everything dialed in on the back end on YouTube. Make sure you're locked in. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.